Okay, so here's my template for DLG and F5K, which essentially means no flaps, although we're running flapper-ons. I have the Vario connected, so you can see it working here. So for my main screen, I've got altitude and DLG timer, which records each flight. Let's have a quick look at the screens. I've got a second screen for F5K, which has got motor battery use, altitude, flight time. I've got my screen that allows me to see my vertical speed and altitude, my battery, RSSI, but also I can see my differential setting and my elevator compensation under braking. Finally, we have the DevMon screen. It's a bit hard to see actually, but what that does is allows me to see the movement of the sticks. Okay, so currently we have go fly mode, which means that we have got a fairly dumb transmitter, and all that works are the main sticks. We can see that in rudder. So I've got my channel setting AAER, and if we go to the next screen, we've got throttle on channel 5, and you can see the flap stick on channel 8 when that's active. Currently it's not active. So to make things active, we
DLG mode.
We turn on the DLG mode, which turns on our launch mode. We can also turn on
air brake on, flaps up,
our brakes. So for example,
flaps down.
We can see that when we bring our flaps down, our ailerons are dropping, or flapperons are dropping, our elevator is compensating. And you can see the flap stick
up, flaps down,
flap stick working.
Flaps up.
If we were in F5K,
motor armed,
and our motor was on, we wouldn't have our launch mode and our motor mode on at the same time, but when we run the motor, you can see the throttle channel working. I'll just reset that.
Reset. Check flight mode.
So now we're in our dumb mode again. Throttle stick doesn't work. I mean, the brake stick doesn't work and the throttle doesn't work. Okay, so let's go back into DLG mode.
DLG mode. Air brake on.
Air brake's on.
Up. Flight mode on.
And our flight
mode cruise.
Flight modes are active. And originally I had this switch set up for my flight modes, but I found when flying it was a bit hard to reach to, so I've swapped to this switch. So if we go to our outputs, and we've got level ailerons and level elevator.
Flight mode speed.
If we're in speed mode, we can see that we've got reflex and some compensation.
Flight mode cruise. Flight mode float.
And we can see that in float mode, we have got a little bit of camber and some compensation. Now, when we're in float mode, we can use S1.
Thermal camber. -8. Thermal camber. -15.
To dial in some more camber. So basically I have a float mode with a minimum amount of camber, and then I adjust my thermal camber as I'm flying.
Thermal camber 0.
Now while we're at it,
flight mode cruise.
We have Expo on this S2.
Expo 30%. Expo 60%. Expo 0%.
So I can adjust my expo at will. While we're in these flying modes, if I go back to these screens and I want to adjust my differential.
Aileron differential 5%. Aileron differential 10%. Aileron differential 5%. Aileron differential 0%.
I can adjust my differential, obviously, on T6 in 5% increments. Now I can adjust the degree of the increments because I'm calling a variable to make the adjustment. And under braking,
Flaps down.
the maximum elevator compensation is 25.
Air brake elevator 24%.
And I can adjust that live while flying under brakes.
Air brake elevator 25%.
And again, I'm using a variable to call this figure.
Flaps up.
So if we go to our outputs and we're under braking,
Flaps down.
you can see that I'm at 20% now, but now I'm at maximum, the maximum compensation of 25%.
Flaps up.
And in my variables, I have actually got two sets of variables because my curve under braking is not straight. The compensation comes on rapidly and then it drops off to the 25%. Now, if we are in DLG mode, we're using our button on the back of the X18, which puts us into our launch mode.
Launch.
And you can see that the log timer has started as well.
Launch.
We're rotating, we let go.
Launch. Zoom.
We're now in zoom mode.
Zoom.
Climbing,
Zoom. Zoom.
climbing, and we push over at the top.
1.7 meters.
And we push over the top, it calls the maximum altitude after the launch. We fly around, we come into land, and then I can stop my timer. And actually that flight was recorded in the logs, and so I have that data for later. If we have a look at the outputs, when we hit the launch button,
Launch.
the elevator rises so
Launch.
that when we let go of the glider,
Launch.
we are
Launch. Launch.
we're rotating the glider upwards.
Launch. Zoom.
We let go
Zoom.
and we're in zoom mode. I've now got reflex on the
Zoom. Zoom.
on the flaperons,
Zoom.
and so we're climbing ballistically, and we push over at the top.
0.5 meters.
It pushes over, calls the flight, and drops into the flight mode that we were currently in, and we were in cruise. And that's essentially it.